Welcome to the Wise Doula podcast, a place for informative, uplifting, and educational conversations. Here we will discuss everything connected to the parenting journey, from conception and birth to postpartum and beyond. You are amongst friends here. This is a place to share our common wisdom and learn together. So go ahead, grab your favorite drink. Remember, not caffeinated if you are expecting, and join me inside. I can't wait to speak with you. Welcome to today's episode, and we are doing an episode on archaeology. Wait a second. Isn't this the Wise Doula podcast? Are we going to be talking about ancient remains and ruins and artifacts from other cultures? Nope. We are going to talk about the archaeological remains inside each one of us. And how this topic started for me is when I went to a local bookstore, a secondhand bookstore. Actually, it has both a new section and a secondhand section. And I found a book by a Spanish author called Miguel de Unamuno, very famous author, already passed. And I found a book in Spanish, Wonder, that somebody had been studying. If you are watching on YouTube, you are looking at the book right now. And how amazing is it that, well, it's both amazing and a little sad also, because this book used to be in a library. It has the stamp of the library in the front. And, I normally don't condone writing on books. I really don't. But it's very interesting to see how people write on books and what they write. If you look at this book, it has writings in different color inks and different writings doing different things. This one might be indicating the title or the theme of the chapter. This one circling words that the person didn't know because they were learning Spanish and they were more advanced vocabulary. This one perhaps highlighting lines or areas that were important. This is not the first book I find that has writing on it. I got another one the same day by Pearl S. Buck, where the person that bought it wrote down the first and second time they read the book. I thought that was pretty amazing, including the fact that the first time they read the book, I had not been born yet. Time and time again, when I'm looking at books, I am seeing notes, I am seeing stamps from librarians, names of people that got the book before. Maybe they wrote on the margins, maybe they highlighted something. And time again, I'm thinking, what's the story behind the person that made those notes on the book? What's the story behind the person that circled those words that they didn't know? What was going on in their life at the time of getting this book? What did they use it for? Were they a new student to the language, especially in the case of the Spanish one? Or were they an advanced student trying to improve their Spanish, the command of the language? What was happening? When I look at that, my archaeologist's heart, the teenager that dreamt of studying archaeology before dreaming of being a teacher, wonders, what happened? What are the stories behind it? And my researcher mind kind of sparks alive, And then I think about it from the point of view of doula work, of working with people, of taking care of people. That's what I do professionally. And I think about the archaeology of people. Just like these books that I have shared with you have notes and annotations and words underlined and stories behind the people that wrote them. Everybody that we encounter, whether as a peer or as a client, has a story to tell, has archaeological remains of some sort. Yes? They are not visible, they are buried, and we don't know what they are. Some of them might be happy memories, might be ruins of happiness, so to speak. Some of them might be ruins of trauma, of difficult situations, of challenging moments in life. At the point that we arrive in their lives, whether as a peer or as a professional, we do not know what has happened to them previously. We do not know what's to uncover if we were to do that archaeological dig of that person. And of course, in my example, if I am somebody, a family's doula, it is not my job at that precise moment to uncover all the archaeological remains that are there. It is my job to provide the best support possible. And that means that I need to sit down and support that person to the best of my ability, listening to what they need. And little by little, they might uncover some of those archaeological remains with me, right alongside me, if we develop that rapport. This is especially important when it comes to trauma. If you know, there is a British psychologist called Dr. Julie Smith, and she always has great visuals to explain concepts. In one of her videos, she talked about trauma. She mentioned that trauma is like a wound that you have in your arm, okay? And it hurts. It hurts so much that you cover it with a band-aid and a bandage and you wrap it really tight. But underneath that gigantic bandage, the wound is still fresh and not healed. And so even though it's covered and people cannot see it, every time somebody accidentally pokes on that area, it hurts. That's how she defined trauma. And I truly, truly loved it. The thing is, when we approach a person, we're not going to know where those bandages are, right? We're not going to know where those areas of their life they want to protect. In the case of a doula client, I am looking at accompanying somebody that might have experienced loss before, or a difficult fertility process, or somebody that pretty much gave up on having children and then they got pregnant, or someone that had tough circumstances and decided to go the route of adoption, somebody that decided to go the route of adoption right away. There is going to be a lot involved in each person I take care of. Likewise, when you are helping your peers, your friends, your relatives, like we all naturally do if we like to help, those situations are going to arise too. This is where it's important, in my experience, and I'm sure you've experienced it too, to watch out for landmines, to watch out for comments that might be well intended, but really don't help anybody. Because we don't see what's underneath that situation, because we don't see the archaeological remains that exist in all of us, if you see a woman married, let's put that example, no children, and you say, oh, are you never planning to have children? Or you're just waiting? Like somebody told me, somebody at work told me years ago, you have no idea of what's going on in that woman's life. No idea. Maybe they've struggled with fertility. Maybe there is a lot of traumatic experiences in their past. Maybe they don't feel it's the right time to bring a baby into the world. It's a myriad of things. And that comment that to you might seem well intended might end up deeply hurting that other person. Another comment that I've heard personally, not professionally: well, you wouldn't make a good mother because you're too strict. This was said to me by another coworker when I was a full-time teacher. You wouldn't make a good mother because you're too strict with your students, so you don't have the motherly instinct. You don't know the previous experiences of the person you're saying that to, and you don't know the many levels of hurt that a comment like that can cause. But you still say it. It's a tough lesson, isn't it? Because as human beings, we have tons of opinions. And we think it's great to go around telling everybody our opinions and what we think and blah, blah, blah. But what is happening with that person? Since you cannot x ray and see what's happening, what's the archaeology of their life, what are the remains inside of them, you have to approach every interaction with kindness and delicately. Meaning, if you don't know what to say, don't say anything. And if you want to be helpful, approach that person and say, how can I help you today? What is it that you need right now? Because comments about whether they want to become mothers or not are not helpful. Comments about when are they hoping to have a second baby are not helpful. You have no idea what's going on. Comments about motherhood in general might be super triggering for people. And the reality is, some women choose not to be mothers, and that is absolutely fine. But it really speaks to all of us have such deep stories, such complicated experiences, good, the bad, the ugly, the in between, that we have lived throughout our lives. They make us who we are today, right? They make us this person with these circumstances, with these fears, with these doubts, with these insecurities, with these joys. And we have the right to be respected in our humanity. We're all different. We all need different things. But it is a right to be respected by other human beings. I totally believe that as humans, we have value regardless of our experiences, good, bad, ugly, regardless of our trauma, regardless of our archaeological remains. And so, as a doula, when I encounter family and I get into a relationship with a new client, I allow space for them to tell me what it is they need, to tell me what it is that worries them, that scares them, that frightens them. Of course, they're not going to tell me that on day one, maybe not even on day 10, if the relationship doesn't create that rapport. But it is my mission to create that rapport. And I don't think this is a rapport that should only exist in the professional world. I think it should exist in the friend, peer world, okay? I think we have to realize that there are many different pathways to motherhood. And there are many different experiences to parenthood, many different ones. And that we don't have the keys to know what's going on in everybody's body and in everybody's head. And therefore, making assumption, making comments, deciding for other people, putting our opinions above all else, even if that looks cute in the moment, we're doing a disservice to that person, right? That friend of yours, that relative, that client that just got pregnant needs all the support in the world. And it's a support that is open, that is kind, and that is validating. You open the space for them to feel what they feel, to tell you what they need, and sometimes maybe to be silent as well. Sometimes in silence, there is more information than in words, right? Sometimes in observing a person and how they are reacting, there is more than we can read than by listening to words. And a lot of times, of course, we can make an assumption based on a first impression, but our analytical mind, our researcher mind, tells us that it's a better idea to wait and see. For example, I can have a client that, as we are talking about her birth plan, is very fearful of the birth experience. I don't know what's going on about that. I can notice she's very fearful of the birth experience. Okay. And I can immediately assume she's scared of giving birth. Okay. But that would be a quick assumption. Instead, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to go, okay, I am noticing fear around the process of birth. What is it that she needs? And let me listen and speak to her more and delve more into conversations with her and understand where that fear is coming from. Oh, okay. In another conversation, she's mentioning that her mom, her grandma, her aunt, all of them have been telling her horror stories about their own births. Okay. So she's scared by the society around her. What can we do to help with that fear? What are the areas where she's particularly scared? Let's talk about those. Let's see if we can do some breathing exercises that are going to help her calm down, etc. If I see another client that is very fearful of milestones, or of the first ultrasound, the second ultrasound, my assumption could be, well, she's scared of ultrasounds, period. But there is more underneath, right? We go back to that archaeology of people. There is more underneath. So what's underneath? Well, underneath is maybe the fact that a month into our contract, she decides to share with me that this is not her first pregnancy. It's her second. She lost her first baby in the second trimester. And every ultrasound is a trigger because she was told the baby had no heartbeat at an ultrasound appointment. See? So I could stay in the surface, but the surface doesn't give me the information I need. If I have a client that has decided to go the route of adoption and now has hired me for postpartum and now is very fearful of what to do with the baby, worried about taking care of the baby appropriately, falling into deep sadness, I could be like, oh, maybe she has postpartum depression. But that's a quick assumption. Again, no. Okay, let's sit down and talk about what's going on. What are you feeling? How can I best support you throughout those feelings? And where can we get you resources to help feel better? Where is that fear coming from? Where is that doubt coming from? Because it's truly when we understand where those things come from that we can help that person. So ultimately, my encouragement for you is to do the same, to go past that surface level comment, that surface level assumption, and get your tools, get your shovel and all your archaeological tools. And believe me, it's not glamorous like in Indiana Jones. I actually went to an archaeological dig summer camp when I was in college, and boy, it was hot, it was dirty. You had dirt coming out of your nose. And I mean, when you shower, the water was brown, and it was a painstaking process, okay? Digging, cleaning the pieces that appear, washing them, cataloging them, storing them properly, preserving the if there were um, foundations of buildings and stuff, we had to preserve that. Sometimes we had to cover it again so the tomb raiders wouldn't come and destroy the site. Complicated. And just like archaeological ruins and digs, humans are equally complicated, right? So I really encourage you to go beneath the surface. You might think, but I'm just a peer. I'm not a professional. I'm not going to be working with them like you are, Marta. I'm not going to be in a doula contract type situation. It's still, it's okay. You're going to be supporting them. They're going to lean on you because you're a peer, because you're a friend, because you're family. And they're going to be looking for that unconditional support, non-judgmental support for you. And I know that's hard, okay? Because again, as human beings, we're used to judging, unfortunately. But I encourage you to look beneath the surface. I don't mean that your cousin or your sister or your friend is going to spill like an open book and show you all their pages at once. The same with clients. They're not going to blow open their pages and show me everything at once. And they might not, they might only show me 10% during the course of our contract and our work together. It's up to them, it's their choice. But go beneath the surface. See what is it that they need and why do they need it. Okay? I really encourage you to do that. And upon that, we're going to take a hydration break. So if you will allow me, I will have some of my tea. We are going to inaugurate a new segment called the Word of the Week. Every week, I will tell you a word and a definition, and I will give you homework for the following week with a new word, okay? So the word of the week is galactagogue. What is a galactagogue? Let's study the origin of the word. Galactagogue comes from two Greek words, galacta and gog, okay? So galacta is milk and gog is to carry, to bring, okay? So you have galactagogue, that means to carry, to bring the milk. What a galactagogue is a pharmaceutical or an herbal-based substance that helps increase the production of milk. There are certain pharmaceuticals that are proven by research to increase milk, and there are also certain herbals. There is some research into those herbals, but they're not 100% proven to also increase milk supply. So that's what a galactagogue is. And it's kind of in the name, right? It brings milk, it carries milk. Galactagogues are taken for two reasons. One, when there is somebody sees that they have a low milk supply and directed by their doctor, they take galactagogues or by their lactation consultant. Another is when people are inducing lactation, and this could happen in the case of same-sex marriage couples. It could happen in the case of couples that are adopting. There are many reasons why people want to induce lactation. So galactagogues are useful in both of those situations to increase milk supply and also to induce lactation. When they're used to induce lactation, they have to be used in conjunction with other techniques, not by themselves, okay? And always under medical supervision. So that's our word for today. So this is a breastfeeding related work. And I can tell you, when I saw that word on my postpartum doula exam before I became a lactation educator, I had no idea what a galactagogue was. And I looked at the word like, funny, because I did study Greek in high school. So I should have looked at the origin of the word and deduct what it was. You know what I mean? But it still kind of freaked me out when I saw that word. So I never forgot it. Now, our word for next week is the tail of Spence. Where is the tail of Spence? What does it do? Is it really near your tailbone? You tell me. You do your research. If you figure out what the tail of Spence is, please go ahead and add it in the comments on YouTube, or you can add it as a comment on Apple or Spotify. I am looking forward to reading your comments. And without further ado, I bid you goodbye. It's been a pleasure spending time with you today. I hope you will join us again next week. Thank you. Bye for now. Hey, you have listened to the Wise Doula podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, everything we discussed today was meant for entertainment and educational purposes only. It does not substitute the advice of your medical provider. Would you do us a favor? Follow me on Instagram at lovingbellydoula. Also, let me know what other topics you would like to see me discuss in this podcast. And please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platforms. Thank you so much. I will see you next week.